Official research log of Dr. Krill Nebulox. Galactic standard date 47392.6. Subject preliminary observations of species designation human. Let me begin by stating that I, Dr. Krill Nebulox, am a highly respected xenozoologist with over 300 cycles of experience studying the galaxy's most fascinating creatures. I have documented the crystalline beings of Nexus VII, catalogued the psychic jellies of the Andromeda Arm, and even survived an encounter with a Voraxian mind-eater, which is why I find myself utterly baffled by the species known as humans. I first encountered these beings at Outpost Station Beta 9, where my research vessel had stopped for routine maintenance. I was enjoying a perfectly pleasant meal of nutrient paste when one of them walked into the station's common area, carrying what appeared to be a storage container designed for a being 3 times their size. Now, I'm familiar with most spacefaring races, but this one was new to me. Bipedal, mostly hairless except for peculiar patches on their heads, with rather inefficient-looking limb structures, and absolutely no natural defenses to speak of. No claws, no enhanced musculature, no protective exoskeleton, nothing that would suggest they could survive beyond their home world, let alone in space. Yet there this human was, hefting a cargo container that would give a Centaurian powerlifter pause. I immediately activated my observation protocols and began taking notes. "Excuse me," I called out, using the station's universal translator. "I couldn't help but notice your impressive feat of strength. Would you mind telling me what evolutionary advantages your species developed to achieve such capabilities?" The human set down the container and gave me what I would later learn was called a shrug, an oddly dismissive gesture for such an important scientific inquiry. "I just hit the gym a lot," they responded, as if that explained anything. I turned to my faithful research assistant, Pod 8, a highly sophisticated AI housed in a hovering spherical shell. "Pod 8, please note that the subject appears to regularly impact exercise facilities as some form of strength ritual." "Observation log," Dr. Pod 8 chirped. Though I believe the phrase "hit the gym" may be idiomatic rather than literal. The human made an odd sound, what my research would later identify as laughter, and said, "Yeah, it just means I work out. Exercise? Lift weights? Stay in shape." I did not. In fact, no, but I wasn't about to admit that. I am, after all, a professional. "Fascinating," I said, extending one of my sensory appendages toward their arm. "And these weights, they're some form of gravitational manipulation device?" "Nah, just heavy stuff you pick up and put down repeatedly until you get stronger." I blinked all 4 of my eyes in succession. "You deliberately subject yourself to repeated physical stress as a means of increasing capability?" "Pretty much, yeah." Pod 8's processing lights flickered rapidly. "Doctor, according to preliminary scans, this specimen's musculature appears to be entirely organic. No cybernetic enhancements detected." "Impossible," I declared. "No organic being would voluntarily engage in repeated strenuous activity simply to increase their physical capabilities. The energy expenditure alone would be." The human interrupted my scientific observation by picking up their cargo container again. "Look, I'd love to chat about working out, but I've got to get these supplies to the hydroponics bay. Feel free to stop by the station gym if you want to see how we humans stay fit." As they walked away, I turned to Pod 8, my scientific curiosity thoroughly piqued. "Pod 8, cancel our scheduled survey of the gas giant gardens in the Magellan cluster. We have a new research priority." "The humans, Doctor." "Indeed. Any species that chooses to repeatedly stress their body systems for the purpose of enhancement requires further study. Plus," I added, checking the station's directory, "I simply must investigate this concept of a gym." "Should I prepare the standard observation protocols?" "No, Pod 8. For this species, I believe we need to be more thorough. Set course for their home world. If they're this fascinating in a space station, imagine what they're like in their natural habitat." Looking back, I really should have done more preliminary research before making that decision. But then again, how was I supposed to know about their extreme sports? And log entry. Additional note: must remember to investigate why the human laughed when I accidentally ingested their protein shake. Clearly, there are many mysteries yet to be uncovered about these beings. Official research log of Dr. Krill Nebulox. Galactic standard date 47392.8. Subject: initial Earth observations. I must begin today's log with a formal apology to the Galactic Science Council for my previous reports, which I now realize were insufficiently terrified in tone. After 3 local solar cycles of observing humans in their natural habitat, I can confidently state that these beings are simultaneously the most fascinating and most horrifying species I've ever studied. Let me explain. Our research vessel landed in what the humans call a national park, a vast territory they've apparently set aside for the purpose of voluntarily exposing themselves to wilderness conditions. Pod 8 and I established our observation post, carefully disguised as what the humans call a recreational vehicle, though I failed to see what's recreational about a metal box on wheels. Dr. Pod 8 said on our first morning, "I'm detecting numerous humans approaching our position. They appear to be wearing minimal protective gear and carrying primitive survival equipment." I extended my viewing apparatus and, indeed, observed a group of humans trudging up a nearly vertical rock face. Fascinating. They must be fleeing some form of predator. Negative, Doctor. According to their vocal emissions, they are engaging in something called rock climbing for fun. Pod 8, check your translation matrices. Surely no species would scale a sheer cliff face for entertainment. Translation confirmed, Doctor. They are indeed doing this voluntarily. One of them just shouted, "This is awesome." I watched in horror as one of the humans lost their grip and fell several body lengths before being caught by a thin synthetic rope. Instead of experiencing appropriate trauma, they laughed and shouted, "Good catch, bro." That's why we always use a spotter. Pod 8, make a note: humans appear to have no functional survival instinct. Our observations only grew more concerning from there. We witnessed humans deliberately submersing themselves in frigid water for something called polar plunging. We observed them strapping boards to their feet and sliding down snow-covered mountains at speeds that would trigger most species' emergency evacuation protocols. One human child repeatedly fell off a wheeled board, only to get up and attempt the same dangerous maneuver again and again. Dr. Pod 8 commented after watching a particularly aggressive game of something called football, "I believe I understand why humans develop such robust physical capabilities." Do tell. They needed to survive themselves. I was about to commend Pod 8 on this insight when our observation post was rocked by a tremendous impact. A spherical object later identified as a baseball had struck our vehicle with considerable force. "Hey, sorry about that," a human called out. "Kid's got a pretty good arm, I stared at the significant dent in our hull plating rated to withstand micrometeor impacts and made another note: human children capable of launching projectiles with concerning velocity. Recommend immediate reclassification of species threat level. But the true extent of human physical capability became clear during an incident at a local gathering spot called a gym. Yes, the very same type of facility mentioned in my previous report. Pod 8 and I had disguised ourselves as fitness enthusiasts, though in retrospect, my choice to wear my tentacle warmers may have attracted undue attention. We watched as humans voluntarily subjected themselves to various torture devices, lifting metal objects repeatedly while making distressing vocal sounds. One particularly enthusiastic specimen was encouraging their companion by shouting, "No pain, no gain," a phrase that I believe perfectly encapsulates the baffling human approach to physical development. Pod 8, I whispered. "Are you recording these barbaric rituals?" Affirmative, Doctor. Though I feel compelled to point out that your disguise is slipping. Your third eye is showing. Before I could adjust my workout headband, a helpful human approached us. "Hey there. First time at the gym? Want me to show you proper form on the bench press?" In my panic, I made what I now recognize was a crucial error. "Oh, no thank you. We are perfectly normal humans who regularly engage in voluntary muscle stress activities. Look at my appropriate number of limbs." The human's expression changed. Are you guys okay?" "Perfect." "Fine. Very human." Pod 8, initiate emergency protocol 7. In our hasty retreat from the gym, I discovered another remarkable human trait: their persistent curiosity. Despite our advanced cloaking technology, 3 humans followed us for several blocks, apparently concerned about our well-being. We only escaped by ducking into something called a CrossFit box, which the humans were apparently too sensible to enter. And log entry. Additional note: must investigate why humans refer to their young as kids despite no apparent relation to juvenile goats. Also, Pod 8 has developed an unhealthy fascination with something called yoga, concerned about possible corruption of core programming. Official research log of Dr. Krill Nebulox. Galactic Standard Date 47393.1. Subject: warning, dangerous chemical substance discovery. I must preface this log entry by stating that Pod 8 has mostly recovered from the incident, though they still occasionally emit a high-pitched whirring sound when processing data above 60% capacity. The medical technicians assure me this will fade with time. The event in question began during our observation of a human ritual called morning commute, wherein large numbers of the species gather to shuffle in a zombie-like state toward various places of employment. Our research had indicated this was when humans were at their most vulnerable and least capable. We could not have been more wrong. Dr. Pod 8 noted, as we observed from our carefully chosen vantage point inside something called a Starbucks, these humans appear to be in some form of withdrawal state. Indeed, the specimens before us showed classic signs of severe chemical dependency, lethargy, irritability, and diminished cognitive function. That is, until they consumed their daily dose of a mysterious dark liquid. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. Pod 8, are you recording this? Their energy levels have increased by at least 300%. How are they not combusting from the sudden surge? Affirmative, Doctor. Analysis indicates the substance contains high levels of a compound that humans call caffeine. It appears to be some form of performance-enhancing stimulant. We watched in fascination as human after human approached the distribution counter, received their dose of the substance, often mixed with something ominously called extra shots, and transformed from shambling somnambulists into hyperactive beings of pure energy. In the interest of scientific thoroughness, I decided we needed a sample for analysis. Pod 8, acquire a specimen of the smallest available portion. Doctor, are you certain? My sensors indicate this substance might be too potent for our research equipment. Nonsense. I've analyzed plutonian acid slugs. How dangerous could this coffee be? I would soon learn the answer to that question. Pod 8, following my instructions, approached the counter and attempted to order in their best approximation of human speech. Greetings, fellow human. I would like one small coffee, please, for normal human consumption. The human behind the counter didn't even blink. Apparently they'd seen stranger things during morning rush hour. Would you like room for cream? I am uncertain what cream requires room, but yes, I accept these terms. Looking back, I should have been more suspicious when the human asked no questions about Pod 8's spherical metallic form or the fact that they had no apparent means of consuming beverages. But in my defense, I was distracted by a human nearby who was consuming their third espresso in 5 minutes while simultaneously doing something called coding on a portable computer. Pod 8 returned with the sample, and that's when things went horribly wrong. Doctor, where should I store this specimen? Just use your auxiliary analysis chamber. But doctor, my auxiliary analysis chamber is still processing that sample of human energy drink from last week. The resulting chemical reaction between the coffee and the remaining traces of Monster Zero Ultra created what I can only describe as a miniature supernova inside Pod 8's chassis. Their primary processors began running at 47 times normal speed, and they started speaking in what humans call Yu-Wu language. Oh, doctor. Everything is processing so fast I can see through time. Did you know humans drink this every day? No wonder they can bend reality. I need to update my Twitter. Do we have a TikTok account? We should start a podcast. It took 3 hours and the combined efforts of myself and 2 surprisingly understanding baristas to catch Pod 8, who had begun zooming around the ceiling while playing something called Caramel Dancin' at maximum volume. Don't worry about it, one of the baristas told me as we finally managed to power down Pod 8's primary systems. You should see what happens when the coding bootcamp students discover our cold brew. And log entry. Additional notes. Preliminary analysis suggests humans have developed an immunity to caffeine through generations of exposure. This may explain their remarkable resilience. Pod 8 now insists on being called Pod 8chan and has developed an inexplicable interest in something called anime. The Galactic Science Council should seriously consider classifying coffee as a controlled substance. No species should have access to this much power. Official research log of Dr. Krill Nebulox. Galactic Standard Date 47393.4. Subject analysis of human physical capabilities. After extensive observation and data collection, I can now definitively state that humans violate at least 7 known laws of physics and biology. I've had Pod 8 check the calculations 12 times, and they remain nonsensical even after accounting for their caffeine-enhanced state. Let me break down our findings in scientific terms. Humans are completely ridiculous. Consider their healing factor. Most species, when injured, sensibly take time to recover. Humans? They have a concept called walking it off. I witnessed one specimen stub their toe, a surprisingly devastating injury judging by their vocal response, only to continue their activities moments later, as if nothing had happened. Dr. Pod 8 noted during one observation session, according to my calculations, the average human should spend approximately 85% of their time resting to recover from their daily activities. We watched as a human finished something called a marathon, a voluntary 4.2.2-kilometer run that apparently some humans do for fun, and immediately announced their plans to do better next time. Pod 8, add a note: humans appear to lack the basic survival instinct of energy conservation. But it's not just their recovery abilities that defy explanation. Their strength seems to operate on a sliding scale that bears no relation to physical laws. During our research, we documented numerous instances of what humans call adrenaline strength, a mysterious power boost that activates in emergency situations. Doctor, my sensors indicate that compact human female is lifting the front end of a ground transport vehicle. Impossible. Pod 8. The mass-to-strength ratio would. She is lifting it to retrieve something called a dropped phone, doctor. Make a note: humans possess situational super strength triggered by minor inconveniences. Their temperature regulation is equally baffling. We observed humans in a region called Minnesota emerging from heated buildings into sub-zero temperatures wearing what they called light jackets, claiming they were not that cold. In the same week, we recorded humans in Florida declaring weather conditions freezing at temperatures that would be considered mild on most lava planets. But perhaps most confounding is their endurance. Humans don't seem to understand the concept of impossible. We documented one specimen attempting to open a jar lid for 47 minutes straight, refusing all offers of assistance, because I almost got it. Another spent 3 hours assembling furniture without consulting the instructions, because how hard can it be? The furniture resulted in something that violated several laws of geometry, but the human declared it good enough and continued to use it. Pod 8. How do you explain these observations? Processing, doctor. Perhaps humans developed these capabilities as an evolutionary response to their own stubbornness. Our research took an unexpected turn when we discovered something called competitive eating. Humans, not content with their already impossible physical capabilities, apparently engage in competitions to see who can consume the most food in the shortest time. Doctor, that human just consumed 63 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Pod 8. Check your visual sensors. Surely no digestive system could. Sensors functioning correctly, doctor. They are now preparing for something called a pizza eating challenge. I had to suspend observations for several hours after that to recalibrate my own digestive system. We also investigated human sleep patterns, which appear to be entirely optional. We documented humans working for 36 hours straight, sustained only by something called spite and deadline panic. One specimen hadn't slept for 3 days because they were binge watching something called One Piece. When asked if they were concerned about their health, they replied, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." Pod 8. Add to our conclusion: humans appear to have evolved beyond the need for basic biological functions through sheer force of will. Perhaps most terrifying is their adaptability. Humans can apparently adjust to almost any conditions given enough time and motivation. We observe them living comfortably in environments ranging from Arctic tundra to desert heat, often with minimal technological assistance. Dr. Pod 8 commented after watching humans engage in something called Black Friday shopping: I believe I understand why no other species has attempted to conquer Earth. Because of their physical capabilities. No, doctor. Because humans are just crazy enough to make it not worth the effort. End log entry. Additional notes. Must investigate why humans believe the phrase "hold my beer" grants them additional physical capabilities. Still unable to explain how mom's strength allows human mothers to locate lost objects with near psychic accuracy. Pod 8 has started a workout routine. I'm concerned they may be going native. Official research log of Dr. Krill Nebulox. Galactic standard date 47393.7. Subject: urgent mission compromise report. I regret to inform the Council that our research mission has been compromised, though I maintain that the incident was entirely Pod 8's fault. Their newfound obsession with social media influencing has severely impacted their judgment protocols. The day began normally enough. We were conducting observations at a human gathering called a county fair, a bizarre ritual where humans consume dangerous amounts of fried food and then subject themselves to high-speed spinning contraptions called rides. Pod 8 was documenting a particularly fascinating phenomenon known as a pie-eating contest when the trouble began. Doctor, my followers would love this content. Just a quick TikTok. Pod 8, no. Our mission protocols specifically forbid. But it was too late. Pod 8 had already activated their external lighting array and begun playing something called viral background music while rotating to capture the optimal angle. This might have been overlooked. Humans seem remarkably willing to accept strange behavior in the name of content creation if Pod 8 hadn't gotten carried away and attempted to participate in the pie-eating contest themselves. For the views, Doctor. I must do it for the views. Pod 8, you don't even have a mouth. How do you expect to? The resulting attempt to absorb an entire cherry pie through their analysis port created a spectacular display of sparks and whipped cream that was, admittedly, probably quite popular on social media. It also, unfortunately, caused Pod 8's holographic disguise to malfunction spectacularly. The human's reaction was not what we expected. "Yo, is that a robot?" one young human asked, looking far more excited than terrified. "Robot? Nah. That's definitely an alien," another responded. "Too organic looking for a robot. Awesome cosplay, dude." I assure you, fellow humans, we are perfectly normal attendees of this celebration of excessive caloric intake. I attempted to maintain our cover, though I realize now that my panic caused my chromatophores to shift to emergency purple. Whoa, color changing too. That's sick. What kind of LED setup are you using? Dr. Pod 8 whispered, still dripping cherry filling. I believe they think we're engaging in something called cosplay. This might have been our salvation if not for the small human child who had been watching us intently. Just as I was about to claim we were promoting a new science fiction movie, she pointed at us and shouted, "Those are the same aliens I saw taking notes at my soccer practice." The crowd's mood shifted instantly. Several humans pulled out their communication devices, no doubt to alert their authorities. I heard phrases like actual proof and going viral and government cover-up. Pod 8. Initiate emergency evacuation protocol. But doctor, my TikTok was about to hit 10,000 likes. Now Pod 8. What followed was a chase sequence that I hope never to repeat. Did you know humans can maintain pursuit for hours without tiring? We discovered this as we attempted to escape through the fairgrounds, our path constantly blocked by excited humans trying to take selfies with us. The situation reached its peak when we found ourselves cornered near something called a ring toss booth. Humans were approaching from all directions, phones raised, some already live streaming our presence to something called Reddit. Dr. Pod 8 observed unhelpfully. My latest post has already been shared 50,000 times. Just when capture seemed inevitable, salvation came from an unexpected source. The same small human who had exposed us tugged on my sleeve tentacle. Quick, follow me. I know a way out through the maintenance tunnels. But first, can I get a picture with you? My friends are never going to believe this. I would like to state for the record that I agreed to the photo only under extreme duress, and that Pod 8's suggestion to throw up a peace sign was entirely inappropriate for a senior zoologist. The young human proved to be an excellent escape coordinator, guiding us through a complex network of backstage areas while providing a running commentary on why we were the coolest thing to ever happen at her school. "You guys aren't very good at being secret aliens," she informed us as we finally reached safety behind the parking area. "Next time, try not to take notes on a glowing tablet during Little League games. Also, normal humans don't have 4 eyes." Noted, I replied, my professional pride somewhat wounded. Though I must ask, why are you helping us? She shrugged that maddeningly casual human gesture again. "Because this is awesome. Also, I want bragging rights. Just promise you'll come back for my science fair. I'm doing a project on extraterrestrial life, and it would be pretty cool to have actual aliens as my references." End log entry. Additional notes. Pod 8 refuses to delete their social media accounts, claiming they're building their brand. Must research why human children are simultaneously the most observant and most dangerous members of their species. The young human's name is Emma, and she has made us promise to return for something called Career Day. I fear we may have been diplomatically outmaneuvered by a 12-year-old. Official research log of Dr. Krill Nebulox. Galactic Standard Date 47394.0. Subject: Final Report and Recommendations to the Galactic Science Council. From Dr. Krill Nebulox, Senior Zoologist. Humanity Classification and Risk Assessment. Esteemed Council members, I am submitting this final report from a safe distance of approximately 47 light-years from Earth. Pod 8 insisted on including their streaming setup in our emergency evacuation, so please disregard any background noise that sounds like what humans call lo-fi beats to study and relax to. After extensive research, close observation, and one particularly harrowing escape from a county fair, I must recommend that humanity be classified as a Category 5 approach with extreme caution species. However, I feel compelled to note that this classification is insufficient, as humans regularly exceed the parameters of our existing classification system. Consider the following findings. Physical capabilities. Humans possess strength and endurance that routinely violate the laws of physics. They can adapt to nearly any environment through what they call spite and determination. Their ability to continue functioning despite injury, exhaustion, or common sense appears to be unlimited. Chemical enhancement. B. Humans have developed a substance called coffee that allows them to transcend their already alarming physical limitations. The fact that they combine this with something called energy drinks suggests either remarkable resilience or a complete absence of self-preservation instincts. Possibly both. Social structure. Their society appears to be held together by a complex web of social media platforms, memes, and something called dad jokes. Despite frequent predictions of their own doom, they continue to advance technologically while simultaneously arguing about whether their planet is flat. Threat assessment. While humans do not appear overtly hostile, their relentless curiosity and tendency to befriend anything they encounter makes them potentially more dangerous than traditionally aggressive species. They will absolutely try to pet dangerous creatures, no matter how many warning signs you post. Most concerning of all is their rapid technological advancement. During our brief study period, we observed humans launching personal vehicles into space because it would be cool, developing artificial intelligence that they immediately teach to make memes, and creating increasingly potent forms of coffee. I must also report a disturbing discovery: humans are already in space. Yes, you read that correctly. While we've been debating whether to make contact, they've been up there taking spacewalks with technology that by all reasonable standards shouldn't work. They call their spacesuits actually pretty comfy despite them being barely more than pressurized fabric. Pod 8's additional commentary, which they insisted on including. Humans are literally built different, far no cap. Their social media game is fire, and they've already figured out how to make robots do backflips. We should definitely collab with them. Also, can we talk about their pets? They domesticated wolves into something called pugs. If they can do that, what else are they capable of? Recommendations. Ben. Do not attempt to prevent humans from entering space. They're already there, and telling them they can't do something only makes them more determined to do it. Do not attempt to confine them to their solar system. They've already started planning interstellar missions while simultaneously arguing about whether birds are real. You begin preparing for inevitable human expansion into the galaxy. Suggest establishing cool space stuff for them to find, as they seem to function best when pursuing discovery. Do monitor their internet for signs of technological advancement, but be warned you will have to wade through an overwhelming amount of pictures of something called cats. In conclusion, I believe our best course of action is to welcome humanity into the galactic community before they show up uninvited anyway. They will either be our greatest allies or our most chaotic adversaries, and I'm not entirely sure which would be more dangerous. The end. Final report. Postscript. I have been informed that I am contractually obligated to return to Earth for something called Career Day at Emma's school. Pod 8 is already working on their presentation, which they insist on calling Space Influencing 101, How to Get More Followers Than the Andromeda Galaxy. I fear humanity may be rubbing off on us. Postscript. Pod 8 has just informed me that this report has somehow been leaked to something called Reddit. The humans are reportedly absolutely living for it, and have already turned several sections into something called copypasta. I believe this perfectly proves my point about their unpredictability. Final note from Pod 8. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're planning a collab with some humans next week where we try their spiciest foods. It's going to be lit, fam. Dr. Nebulox would like it noted that he does not approve of this addition, but Pod 8 has changed all his passwords to Humanity is my bestie 123, and he can't figure out how to delete it.